Hello and welcome to The Sweaty, the Farmer and the Game Design, where we grown the eternal pineapple that you can grind for generations and generations till the universe is no more. This is episode number 16. Here, there, and back again. I am the long-name gamer as The Sweaty.
And I am Lucho the Farmer. Thanks for joining us in this episode. This week, we walk all the way to the end of the game.
But before that, let's take a look at this week's news and our guest for this very special trilogy. Juliano, say hi.
Hello. My name is Julian, and I don't have a name. I'm not a sweaty. I'm not a farmer. I'm basically just a dude. I could be the.
Just let the podcast know what you do in your normal life.
I don't do anything. I'm boring.
What do you do?
I get money because I do stupid stuff.
Well, he doesn't want to say, but he's a software engineer and he works in.
No, I'm not a software engineer.
You're not a software.
I'm a DevOps engineer, which is very different.
There you go. And he works in applications. He's a gamer too, as we all hear. He plays a lot of different stuff. And he has a passion for games.
No, for Destiny.
All right.
No,
it's not a game.
Saint Seiya 2 minutes ago.
It's not a game.
I've been playing the Outer Worlds a lot this past few weeks because that game is so good.
It is good?
You should play it if you haven't. Yeah, it's amazing. It reminds me of the old Dragon Age Origins thing that was really long ago, before BioWare went to shit.
Yep. Fair enough. All right, there you go. So he's a gamer enthusiast and a long friend of mine. And he's here to help us with this big trilogy, big theme coming ahead. But let's see if our news of this week are Warframe Devstream 134, The Elder Scrolls Legend is dead, and Destiny 2 Season of the Dawn is coming. So, Lucho, tell us about the Warframe Devstream 134.
Yeah, so they basically show most of the features that the Fear release is going to have.
Yeah.
Which means that probably that release is coming soonish.
Soonish TM? Oh my god.
Yeah, but it's been like they show full gameplay and they show a bunch of the systems and that the actual Ethereum thing is gonna have.
Yes.
It looks really cool. Like it really seems like it's gonna be co-op heavy, like battle space. One guy shouting about like resources and building ammunition and
oh my god, it looks really good.
Building energy cells.
Oh, so super co-op, like finally we're gonna have like a experiencing Warframe that actually requires a lot of coordination.
Yeah, they also said that at least for the first release of the system, is gonna be completely designed for co-op gameplay.
Yep.
So solo players are gonna have a hard time clearing up the hardest Ethereum content.
Oh, that's interesting.
It's a really interesting design choice for them because they have always tried to make all their content
solo friendly all the time.
Yeah, but apparently that's not gonna come, at least with the first release. Like the thing is, Steve Sinclair mentioned that it was being hard to balance, so they just draw the line and they said
whatever. So what do you think, Juliano, about this kind of experience? If it's fair to balance always for solo, or there is some things that you need in the game to have people to play with?
I have very limited experience with Warframe. I didn't quite like it, to be honest.
Yeah.
I spent like 30 hours with the game and I did it. Shut up.
Yes.
I was in the game and I just didn't like it.
Fair enough.
And from the point of view of a mostly solo gamer, because I'm mostly a solo gamer, even in MMOs and stuff like that, I feel like balance is very, very difficult. And I don't know the Warframe community that well, but it looks to me like there's a lot of solo players. Most people are solo players. Looks to me like that. So it's probably for the best that they balance for solo more than for groups, because probably if you balance for solo, then group content is gonna be super easy. So, and I don't see anyone complaining about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean, you're right in that the Warframe community has a huge portion of solo players. That's definitely a case. But I don't know. I guess I'm a co-op player in my heart because I like playing with people.
Oh yeah, that's probably the main issue here. That I'm mostly a solo player. You're mostly a group player. So balancing both of us is going to be difficult. But I guess it depends on the community, right? If you look at something like the WoW community or the Destiny community or the Call of Duty community, right? Most of the big MMOs right now, you would balance for groups because most of the stuff that's being done is being done in groups, even if it's just two people, right? But for Warframe is a very specific case where most people play solo. So if you try to balance more towards groups, you're going to force a lot of people to do something that they're either not used to doing or that they don't want to do.
Mm,
So that could alienate a lot of your community if you don't handle it very well.
yeah, but I would make the argument that at least for Warframe, it already happens. There are some things that you that is just a waste of time to solo, like like farming certain bosses and stuff like that is just a pain in the ass to it solo. You can certainly do it, but it is just so inefficient that it's just easier to deal with random people.
Yeah. Yeah, that is true.
Yeah, that's the other point that's difficult to balance. The amount of time that you're going to waste if you try to solo everything. That can be solvable, of course, because there's a lot of stuff that you just can't do solo under any conditions.
Yep.
Yeah, and the WoW thing is just the WoW is so massive that
Jesus.
you don't have that actually like the only content that is not soloable is like the recent content.
Yeah, like high-end content.
Yeah, like high end recent, like the last expansion. Anything outside those 2 years of content, you can pretty much stomp through it, so it doesn't matter really.
Yeah, because
Yeah,
is
that's
there
kind of the point of this series in
Yeah.
general. That I think we should get that. We should get to into that later, not right now.
all
We're
right.
gonna
So
we can
so
get sidetracked.
hopefully we will see this the Furion uh content
Soon.
come soon. I
Oh, I'm
love that.
so waiting for.
I
I'm
know.
so ready for that to drop.
We are ready for the Furion content. Anyway, so
I guess the other thing that I should mention before we move on from that is that uh, on Tenocon they said
yeah,
that the new war campaign or quest
yeah.
was gonna release on December, and that's not happening.
Oh, okay. So
It seems like they. I don't know how to say this. Like in principle, we were all expecting like a cinematic quest
yes,
like
yes.
the
Like
previous
typical.
ones,
Yeah.
but it seems like there's scrapping that idea from scratch, and that maybe we're not gonna get a cinematic quest anymore. And the way that they were selling this is that Ephirian is kind of the first part of the war because it's kind of the preparation phase for going to take out the Lotus.
So they're kind of like they're kind of like putting the storyline more into the small release patches instead of just having
They
like putting
didn't.
one time.
They didn't mention it.
They didn't say how they're gonna like They said
No,
that they're gonna stop doing it the normal way or the classical way that we have been getting it, and they're gonna
yeah,
like pace it more towards
they,
the.
they didn't set anything like that. Like if you watch
Okay,
the stream,
so
it just
speculations. We're speculating here.
I'm speculating right now, but
Yeah,
like
yeah,
if you try to read in between the lines of how they were saying things during the upstream,
yeah.
it seemed like we are kind of not gonna do it anymore, and we are trying to sweep it under the rug. That's the feeling.
All right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I see it. I see it.
So, but I don't know. Like they didn't say
They didn't
anything.
confirm or deny anything.
They never do
All
because
right.
they've been on the business for a long enough time.
Yeah,
They don't commit to anything. So
yeah, that is true.
we'll see. We'll see.
We'll
I
see.
guess I was like briefly looking at things, and some people are pretty concerned about that because I know we like cinematic quests. So we'll
Yeah,
see
we
what
do.
happens.
We'll see what happens. We'll see if it's good enough. All right, and our next docket on the news is the Elder Scrolls Legend is officially dead. So this is a card game that Bethesda came out, kind of like trying to compete with Hearthstone back in the day. And Juliano used to play this card game a lot.
Yeah, Legends had good ideas. I mean, Legends was kind of like trying to do a middle of the road between Magic, which is the 10-ton gorilla that is super difficult, right?
Yep.
And you have to invest a lot of money, a lot of time, and a lot of things that for a new player would be very difficult, right?
Yeah.
And Hearthstone, which is just, in my opinion, the bottom of the simplest and cheapest and most stupid experience when it comes to card games, right? So they were trying to do
There's always
interesting stuff.
Yu-Gi-Oh.
They had the concept. Yeah. To me,
That
they're
insult
both
my
on the same
Hearthstone. I
level.
like Hearthstone. It's a fun
No,
game.
no. I'm not saying that it isn't fun. It's just that having played Magic and having played Legends and having played Gwent, a card, both Yu-Gi-Oh and Hearthstone are too easy to be true, and they depend
All I'm
too
saying is
much on chance.
don't put them on the same bucket.
Okay,
They're not.
fair enough. Okay,
Respect Hearthstone.
Respect Hearthstone.
No, I'm not gonna respect Hearthstone, but whatever.
Yeah.
That's not the point. The point is that they had some concepts, some interesting concepts, such as lanes.
Yeah.
So your cards didn't all go into the same place. So you didn't have just kind of like a single lane of a lot of cards. You had 3 different lanes depending on the type of card that existed and how it could attack. And you had a lot of effects that worked only on certain lanes.
Yeah.
So they gave the game a lot of and the genre in general, a lot of new concepts that if they had persisted with it, they would have been really good.
Yeah.
But this is Bethesda's, and they screwed up basically everything they touch after Fallout 3. Right? Nothing that has come out of Bethesda after Fallout 3 has been good in any way.
Yeah,
So,
so yeah,
was bound to happen.
this company has been in a downhill road, release after release, and this is like they just giving up in another product, right? They just don't want to know anything, and they just announced that we're not gonna release any more patches, any more content in the future. So the game is gonna be there. They're not gonna shut down the servers yet, but it's gonna come eventually. So it's a shame because, as Juliano said, the game had like interesting concepts and that sort of stuff. And in the card game market, in the digital card game market, is always good to see competition and variety, so people can choose and pick what they like in those terms. But yeah, what do you think is the problem with Bethesda doing all this crazy stuff?
It has a name all of
Yes,
its own, ZeniMax.
ZeniMax. You think ZeniMax is the
ZeniMax.
you're
Yeah,
blaming the publisher?
Yeah, I've always thought the publisher is to blame in a lot of things. I mean, Activision took Blizzard and almost destroyed it. The only good thing that it was that Blizzard was too strong of a company to be destroyed by Activision, right? They almost destroyed Bungie. They destroyed a lot of other studios. EA, we don't need to talk about all of the stuff that EA has destroyed. And since Cinemax bought Bethesda, they focused on a lot of stuff that didn't work, such as the Oculus.
Yes.
I mean,
Yeah.
let's face it, VR is not exactly the holy grail that everyone was expecting, right? And
It has
they wasted a
interesting
lot of
things.
money on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's not the great revolution that, right? A lot of people expected VR to basically become the second coming of ID and Doom, right?
Yes.
The,
Yeah.
the,
Yeah. Yeah.
the, the jump from 2D to 3D,
Yeah.
and that didn't happen with VR.
Yeah. The
So
technology is not there yet.
yeah, the technology is not there, and because the technology is not there, there's no killer app, there's no killer game that makes everyone say, "I need to have this."
Yes.
Not even not even the new Half-Life is going to do that,
Yeah.
because a lot of people just would probably want to see just a video on YouTube that
If
shows
it,
the main story points, and that's
what
it.
if it was Half-Life 3?
There is, I mean, you should understand. Valve has been saying this for more than 10 years. The cake is a lie. Half-Life 3 is a lie. There is no Half-Life 3. There will never be a Half-Life 3.
But there is your killer app for VR. No?
Yeah, that's like Duke Nukem Forever.
Yeah, something
kind
like
of
that. Something like that. But anyways,
Yeah, that's not gonna happen.
yeah, it's a shame that we are losing these kind of games, and more for people that invest a lot of time in card games and
And
get
money.
collections and money and learn the game, expect to be like a flourishing scene with this kind of card games, especially with a Bethesda, with the support of Bethesda, of a company like Bethesda behind it. But there we go, another product. Rest in peace, The Elder Scrolls Legend. We barely knew you. Anyways, and
Pretty
for
much.
for the last news of this week, we have the Season of Dawn roadmap for December, for next week is coming with Saint 14 and everything. Yeah. So
Yeah, that's Bungie's in a weird place, to be honest.
whoa. Let's see what the Destiny fan says about this.
Yeah,
That's
so
fair.
yeah, so Bungie. So I understand where they're coming from. So I
Yeah.
understand why. Okay, so again, I've been discussing this with a lot of Destiny fans recently. The people with in the clan that I'm in right now.
Yeah.
We've been talking about this a lot, and there's a general consensus that everyone expected more, right?
Yes.
More
But
of what?
Everything. They expected more activities. They expected more guns. They expected more armor. They expected. I don't know why some people were saying that they expected a new raid, which is something that is completely stupid right now to think of, because making a raid is not easy, right? It takes a lot of time, takes a lot of effort, and that's not something that you can just crank out every 3 months. If you crank out a new raid every 3 months, every single raid is going to be 2 encounters with nothing interesting, with no new mechanics, and that's just not going to work, right? Because it's impossible to do a new raid every 3 months with the amount of people that Bungie have right now.
Yeah.
Right. So a lot of people said they expected more of everything, basically.
Yeah, but okay, my question is, they expected more for Season of the Dawn.
They expect more for every season.
So so people are unhappy with how this current season, I forgot the name.
Season of the
Undying.
Yeah. So people are unhappy with Season of the Undying.
Yes and no. So Bungie has made mistakes when it comes to mostly marketing and communication more than anything else, because Bungie said that the Undying Mind, the end of the season of the Undying, was going to be something huge, right? And it was going to start the next season.
Yes.
But it ended up being just the same activity that we have been doing for the past 3 months. It didn't have anything new besides that they changed the model of the final boss from
To
Minotaur to Hydra,
to a
and
easier
that's it.
to kill boss.
Yeah. So if the event doesn't change anything significantly for the player, not story wise, because story wise is a different thing. If I'm not doing something that's radically different, right? If I'm not doing something that I feel like, okay, this is very different than what it was 2 weeks ago,
Yeah.
then don't hype it that much, because you're hyping something that isn't hypeable, so to speak.
We talked
Right?
about that last week,
Yeah.
and I was saying that I would defend Bungie in that because I don't feel like they hype it that much.
Yeah. We did have this conversation.
Yeah. So there's that. That's the problem.
Like my point is only that I feel like the hype for that end of the season thing was mostly community driven more than Bungie. That's how I saw it.
Yeah, that's true. But it started because Bungie put something in the roadmap that said the Undying Mind. So you
and that was the Undying Mind.
Technically speaking, yeah, he had the title there.
Yeah,
I have the Undying Mind. Yeah.
yeah. That's the actual point. So you put in a roadmap, it's because it's something big, right? Everything else in the roadmap was something significant. I mean, you had the Divinity quest, you had the Xenophage quest, you had the dungeon, you had Illumination in beta, in Crucible. So everything was big.
But you could make an argument that exotic quests are not that big of a deal because they're not repeatable content. It's a little thing that you may be knocked out in a couple of hours if you're lucky.
Yeah.
Like the Xenophage quest. Like all in all, it took us maybe like 2 or 3 hours to.
It was like 3, yeah. Yeah, but the point is that the Xenophage quest actually takes effort, right?
Yeah, but it's a one thing. Like it's a one
shot.
Yeah. And also, look, I would like to point out that if we think that Destiny 2 is now a free-to-play game, and that comes with a lot of caveats.
Yes.
But yeah, it does.
If we assume that it is a free-to-play game, and I don't know how many free-to-play games have you played, like especially in the mobile environment, but I have played a couple of like gacha games, like Asian gacha games, and they do have like this, like one of the ones that I play, it has like a monthly roadmap thing, and they put there like the smallest things that they are gonna do just for the sake of the roadmap looking interesting somehow.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like the roadmap thing more than a communication device is a marketing thing.
Yes.
And you have to be aware of that. So
yeah. But there's
because that's how a free-to-play market works. That's all I'm saying.
No, yeah. But there's another side of it. So I've been playing the Saint Seiya Awakening game, the mobile game that's free to play as well. That one's free to play, right? And these guys have been adding entirely new systems every 3 weeks to a month.
Yeah, but that game is fairly new, so and that happens a lot with mobile games. They add a lot of content on the first patches, and then it winds down quite a bit.
Yeah, but the game is based on the Chinese version of the game, and the Chinese version of the game is also doing that. They're also adding new systems, or they're also changing and overhauling entire systems every 3 weeks to a month. I get your point, but there are also other developers that are also, even if they're free to play, they're adding a lot of new stuff.
I'm not saying they're not. I'm just saying that the roadmap shouldn't be taken as these are the important things, and more like, look, we have a lot of things because we want people to play our free-to-play game. It's more of a marketing thing than an actual communication device.
Yes.
Yeah, I guess that's the actual point. Yeah, I guess that's the actual point. That we should
that's
take
all I'm saying.
roadmaps with a grain of salt. No, I totally agree with you. We should take roadmaps with a grain of salt, and we shouldn't take them as the big thing. We should take them as okay, they're gonna start adding small things every now and then. Yeah, I totally agree with your point.
That's all my point. And I was only offending Bungie because I feel like a lot of the hype for that particular end of the season thing was mostly community driven more than Bungie actually hyping it.
Yeah. There's so there's one thing that Bungie has in particular with Destiny that is difficult to manage, and that is that a lot of the stuff they're adding is referencing stuff in Destiny 1.
Yes.
And stuff that was important in Destiny 1. So the Undying Mind wasn't just a new boss that came out of nowhere. The Undying Mind was the boss of a strike in Destiny 1 that was super repeatable and that gave really great rewards.
Yeah.
So when people saw Undying Mind, they expected something Destiny 1 level back.
Again, but that's
difficult to manage.
But that's not. I mean, you can really make the argument.
Yeah, but that's not what the developers.
That's not Bungie's problem.
Yeah,
that's the community just overhyping themselves out of nowhere.
Yeah, totally. My point is that the community. So Bungie should do better managing the expectations of the community.
Oh, that's
definitely.
So that they don't overhype themselves. That was my point. Yeah, my point wasn't that it was entirely Bungie's fault. My point is that Bungie needs to learn to manage expectations because these people are insane.
But with Lucho, that's impossible. You can
I think that's impossible.
Yeah. You can you can be as tame as you want, and then the same community starts his own crazy theories and overhaul, and then they have themselves out and they explode. And it happens in every community. Right? Yeah. They give you a little tease, something gets leaked, and then the people go insane.
They already did that for Season of Dawn. I mean, it hasn't even come out, and they already did that. Everyone's saying that Trials of the Nine, which is the Pinnacle PvP activity, was coming back. Yeah. And when Bungie didn't say anything, everyone said, no, they didn't say anything because they wanted to be a surprise. And everyone's super hyping it, and everyone's saying that that this is going to be huge. And the Bungie community managers are also at fault here. Yeah. Comment on Reddit that said Trials of the Nine, and 9 was italicized, are not coming back. But basically, by adding that italics to 9, they're saying this particular version isn't coming back, but another one is coming in the future.
All right, explain something to me. What is the thing with Trials? Because I've heard it and I've heard it and I've heard it. What is the thing? Why do people want it so bad?
Okay, so Trials was in D1 it was Trials of Osiris, right? Okay. And in D2 year 1 it was Trials of the Nine. Okay. And basically it's a Pinnacle PvP activity. Yes. It's very sweaty. It's very, very sweaty. There's teams of 4, and it's kind of like elimination. So if you die, you die. And that's it. Okay. And the point behind Trials was that it had its own loot pool that was separate from everything. So there were weapons and armor that were exclusive to Trials. Yeah. That you couldn't get them anywhere else. And if you managed to get if you managed to get 7 games without losing any. Yeah. So certain target games, you would go to a separate location in the Destiny universe that was called the Lighthouse, that no one had access to except for the people that did the flawless in Trials. Okay, so basically it was a repeatable Pinnacle PvP activity. So it's a thing about exclusivity. They want PvP to matter more than it's mattering right now. I think that's the feeling, because I feel like Iron Banner hasn't quenched that thirst, I guess, that the community has for very sweaty PvP activities. Yeah, because it's not meant to. It's not meant to. Iron Banner isn't meant to be a Pinnacle activity. Iron Banner is meant to be something temporary that people play. The fact that there are that there's leveling enabled,
Yeah.
so that your power level matters.
Yeah.
Doesn't change the fact that it isn't pinnacle in any way. There's nothing sweaty about Iron Banner because
Okay.
there are no consequences to losing an Iron Banner match.
All right.
There were consequences to losing a Trials of the Night match, and there were big consequences to losing a Trials of Osiris match.
Fair enough.
In
Now I
Destiny 1.
understand. All right.
That's the point.
Okay. Anyways, coming back around to the Season of the Dawn.
Season of Dawn.
The only thing that I've seen that I said that, oh, that looks interesting, is the activity, the repeatable activity they
sundial.
done, the sundial, because they're saying that is really similar to the menagerie.
Yeah. So what it looked like you had kind of like a staging area,
Yeah.
kind of like the first room in the menagerie,
Yes.
and that you would go. Yes, that would have random activity,
Yeah.
like the menagerie,
Yeah.
right?
So that
But
looks.
they didn't show it all.
That looks. Will you play Season of the Dawn for the activity, Lucho?
If it is similar to a menagerie, yeah,
Yes.
maybe.
Yeah.
I guess we'll have to check. We'll have to check it out next week to see if it's worth it, because I'm honestly a little bit
Skeptical.
Sorry.
You're a little bit
Yeah,
skeptical. Yeah.
I'm a little bit of a skeptic when it comes to Season of Dawn,
All right. Fair
because
enough.
there's a lot of stuff that they haven't said, such as if are there going to be ritual weapons, which were the previous pinnacle weapons.
Yeah.
They haven't said anything about that. So it looks to me like they have very little content to show, and that's why they're not saying anything about it.
So you worry that this season is gonna be
Super light.
super content deprived? Oof.
Yeah.
How long are the seasons supposed to be? 3 months?
3 months.
Yeah. Why?
I feel like it's too short.
It's too short in terms of time, but it's too long in terms of content.
Yeah.
Because Bungie has a small studio now. I mean, in the past, so there's a lot of stuff in the history of Destiny that's difficult to explain unless you have really read everything out. Destiny 2 Year 2, so Forsaken and the 3 seasons that came with Forsaken were very good, and they had a ton of content because Bungie had the help of 2 more studios. So High Moon Studios and Vicarious Visions, 2 Activision studios, helped make that content. So everyone loved Season of the Forge. Everyone loved the Black Armory. Everyone loved the Izanagi quest line, which is insane. Everyone loved Niobe Labs, even though it was bugged and it took 36 hours to get it done and all that stuff.
Yeah.
All of that stuff was done by Vicarious Visions. It wasn't done by Bungie themselves. It was done by another studio, right? And Season of the Drifter was done by High Moon Studios, so that Bungie could focus on the final season, which is Season of Opulence, and they could focus on Year 3, which is Shadowkeep, right?
Yeah.
So Bungie doesn't have that anymore. They don't have 300 more people to help them do stuff. So they have to reduce the scope of what they do a lot. So I
agree with that, and that's why I think longer seasons with longer grinds could be helpful for them.
To give them more time to make content?
Yeah, so if they were able to somehow, I don't want to say reuse, but like they have a couple of activities that are like really interesting and like repeatable, like the menagerie. It's one of them. Help me up.
Forges.
The forges are really.
Forges are fun. Beck's Offensive at first was very fun.
The problem that Beck's Offensive lacks.
Reckoning. No one talks about Reckoning. Don't talk about Reckoning. Everyone hates Reckoning.
Oh, well, Gambit is fun.
So
yeah, but what I'm saying is if they come up with, or if they can like take all these activities that they have and like make one that is gonna last for 4 months or something like that. So that instead
Maybe
to releasing 4 seasons during the year, which sounds like a lot. If they dial it back down to 3
two or two.
or 2,
Yeah.
with like an activity that it's like highly repeatable, with maybe a hard to get gear or something like that. Like, I don't know. So that people are just stuck to the grind, and I'm just saying, make the
Yeah.
game more grindy. And
I think what you're
So
suggesting is
that
like if they take a longer break to make a season with a lot of content, in that break they could like take all activities and kind of revamp it in some shape, way, or form, so they're more engaging and they're more time invested, but in a interesting way, right? So they have enough time to actually make
yeah,
more
so
content because they're
yeah,
smaller. So
so
they
have
what they need is more time, right?
yes, exactly. So
Yeah.
have an activity that people where the loot that people want is hard to get. So people will need to do the activity a lot. Basically, that stretches the grind. They can then stretch the season for that reason, to give people time,
Yeah.
and they give themselves a little bit more time to do more content or
Yeah,
make more
and I
content.
probably put that kind of thing in the realm of not guns, but like custom roll pieces of armor or something like that.
Yeah, yeah,
Right
yeah.
now they have the new system of armor. The fact that you want to like get certain specific rolls in a gear, and then this activity is the one that offers you at the end of a grind those certain. That's a nice thing to chase. So you want to have like a very good build, then you get those grinds, and then you get these certain specific pieces of gears, can be like an exotic or can be like a normal piece of armor. And now that they have that system to play on, that could be like an interesting way to build those rewards.
Yeah, I'm just saying, if they need more time, maybe they can stretch out the grind that people need to. Yeah, people will complain, but yeah.
People complain all the
Yeah,
time.
so I guess that's the big problem with, I don't know if this happens with all of the communities, and this ties to what we're going to discuss a little bit later.
Yeah.
But a lot of the Destiny community, right, is very focused around very few streamers. So if you want good PvE content, and if you want to know what PvE is all about, you go to either Datto or to Glad, right? And if
Yeah.
you want to know what PvP is all about, you go to either I Am Cool Guy or Kamikakes, right?
Okay.
So when these guys, that stuff, when they go through that content, everyone starts complaining, not because the content is actually not grindy, but because they already did it. So the perfect example was that Datto was at the season pass 120 at like a week and a half after Shadowkeep launched.
Yeah.
And everyone started complaining that the season pass was super stupid, and that it was super easy, and that there was no point in doing that. And those people were at the season pass level at like 20 or 25. So streamers, and that's one of the big things that we're going to discuss later, streamers change the way that people approach that kind of repeatable content. And everyone's also very whiny. That's the actual
Yeah,
problem.
yeah. Like, people are gonna complain. Like,
Yeah.
like we.
We are going to print it in a shirt or in a flag somewhere.
Yeah, people are gonna
Right.
complain, but like, come on, like, you have to take decisions to give yourself time to actually develop the content that you
Yeah,
want to
develop
like.
a better
Yeah,
product.
totally.
Are you gonna piss off people? Yeah, sure, but life is hard.
Yeah.
Suck it up. That's my opinion. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess we better expand on this with the actual topic that we're gonna discuss
right.
today.
So those are the news of this week, and now we're gonna move on to our deep dive, or beautiful deep dive.
yeah, which this week is basically throughout the next 3 weeks.
2 weeks.
We're gonna
3 weeks with this one or next one?
yeah,
How do you count?
including this one, 3 weeks, 3 episodes.
Yeah.
we're gonna discuss what this notion of endgame is nowadays,
Yeah.
and yeah, how it has affected the industry and the games that we play and so many things and I guess that one way to okay, you should do a disclaimer. Sorry.
Yes. So
And
before we
get
start
started.
talking, we got the disclaimer.
Ah.
This discussion here that we're gonna have is based on our own opinions and our in-game experience. Especially this because this is like highly opinionated, and we're gonna assume a bunch of things, and we're gonna try to see what was the intention of the developers and all that sort of stuff. So this is the disclaimer. We are not expert, or we are not aiming yet to be a game journalist. So take it with a grain of salt. But the discussion is what we're gonna have about the end game in the industry as a whole, and we're gonna try to dissect it and see what's happening. Right?
Yeah.
That's the topic for today. We bring Giuliano to give us his opinion
That's our
about,
Destiny
because
expert.
it's a difficult it's a difficult thing to tackle, right?
Yeah, it's a huge
So
topic in the industry.
let's begin.
It's very big.
Let's begin, ladies and gentlemen. Where does the end game idea, as we know it now in 2019, originate?
Yeah, and this is motivated by, I remember a time when I was a young, like middle schooler or high schooler or something around those lines, where I used to play games and just finish the games and be happy with my life.
And then you just move on.
Yeah, like
to the next game.
no kidding around. Like one of my favorite games of all time was Age of Empires 2.
Yeah.
I love the campaigns.
Yeah,
They're amazing.
It's the game.
They're so much freaking fun. I remember I played through all of them. I struggled. I overcome the struggle. I finished the campaign. And I moved, like, at that point, the game was finished for me. Like, oh yeah, I love it.
Cool.
Now let's look for something else. But
So
that's not the mentality anymore. And that's where
The question comes from, yeah.
where the question comes from. Yeah.
no, but I guess if you really try to go back to where the whole idea it began in those very same days. It began, that idea of the never-ending game
Yeah.
began mostly with Diablo 2, because Diablo 2 was the very first game that had for gear.
I disagree.
Oh
Diablo
my
2
god.
Okay.
didn't have an end game. Diablo 2 had 3 bosses that you could farm to get better loot, but there was no real, like, repeatable thing to do. It was just, you just go, you speed kill the boss as fast as you can, and that's all you do. Like, there is nothing else to do. There is no accomplishment.
That's the very, so that again, that goes back to what is the end game, because if you look at World of Warcraft, the WoW end game, or the Destiny end game, or the Division 2 end game, it's just the very same thing. You just go and kill a boss in a raid, and you get new stuff, and then you go and kill it back again faster, and you get new stuff. And
Yeah,
if you take something like Diablo 3, you just repeat the Greater Rift, and you try to do it as fast as you can. So
Again, but you could
What is
make
the
the
end game?
argument that either for WoW or the Division or Destiny, they designed an activity with that loop in mind, so it is not that mind numbing. You know, like, so Destiny has its mechanics that you have to learn. There's a learning curve for that activity.
Yeah.
For WoW, there are mechanics, and group coordination plays a bigger role. So there's that learning curve, and the activities are designed for that. While on Diablo 2, this was kind of a thing that just happened. Like, there was no design
yeah,
around
it was
it.
accidental. It was accidental. Yeah, but my point is that not in the way we think about it right now, repeatable stuff and with a learning curve and all of that stuff. But in general, Diablo 2 was the very first game that made you
It
want
is.
to try stuff a lot of times just to get better at something.
I agree with that sentiment in the sense that it is one of the first games in my mind where people were like, like the thing to do once you reach a certain point is just go and repeat this boss.
Yeah.
It's super mind-numbing because there is nothing new.
Yeah.
That's one of the first instances that I can remember of that.
Yes.
Although I wouldn't call it endgame because there is there was no design intention on that.
Yeah, it was accidental, but yeah.
So if we go back in time, the question is, who came up with the idea of endgame?
Not who, but like, where do we see this idea? Like,
where did it? Where did
maybe
it,
EverQuest? Like, if we go that back, did EverQuest had an endgame?
I'd say before EverQuest, RuneScape.
RuneScape, all right.
RuneScape was before RuneScape came first.
RuneScape is older,
Yeah, and RuneScape is a game that never ends.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but RuneScape is a game that never ends. So if we were to point out to the very beginning, it could be in between EverQuest and RuneScape.
In RuneScape, yeah, that idea of a game that you can play to no end.
Yeah, that idea, I'll definitely put it on RuneScape. That's
Yeah.
So, yeah, I guess there was another one that was quickly forgotten, but also Ultima Online also had that.
Ultima, oh my god.
Ultima Online was also never ending. But
even I forgot the game.
Yeah, I played it for a while. So Ultima by itself, the franchise is very difficult to get into. So Ultima Online was the very pinnacle of difficult to get into.
Yeah, didn't Ultima Online has like 500 games before it became Ultima Online?
I think it's 13. I think because you had 1, 2, 3, Underworld, 4, 5, 6, 7, the 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, 13. I think it's 13 games.
13 games before getting to the online version.
Yeah, that's why I said that it's the very pinnacle of difficult to get into because you had to know everything to get started there.
So we can pin like the birth of the endgame from those like very heavy RPGs games. That was the idea, that you played it like at no end, right?
Yeah, but that you always had something to aspire to.
Yeah.
Whatever that is, you always had something to aspire to.
You always have a goal, and when you reach that, there is another thing that you can pursue.
Yes. So yeah.
Is that and I guess I'll jump around. Is that what we are gonna call endgame?
I don't think so. I don't think so, because what you said a little while ago, you have a very big point when it comes to you said that Lucho, that those games weren't designed with end game quote unquote in mind.
Okay, yeah, but like not, but for example, games like RuneScape, I'm pretty sure they were designed with the idea that you will always have something to do, but that something may not be power related, like you know, like there are so many things to master in these games that are kind of on a horizontal plane. Like there is no upwards progression path.
Yeah, because in the end, in RuneScape and in EverQuest and a lot of those games, they ended up being sims. They ended up being like this too big of an RPG, so ended up being a simulator.
Yeah, exactly. So
the end game was live the game.
Yes. Yeah.
But there was nothing that kept you growing
or going beyond or
in terms of power. Or yeah. Okay, you're not striving for something bigger. You're just trying to live a life in the game.
Okay, so is it growth a fundamental part of what we're gonna call endgame?
I think it is, because part of the end game, at least from my experience and from what I understand as the end game, includes part of bragging rights. Right?
Okay.
if you see an end game level player, they have stuff that no one else does, and they can do stuff that no one else can. So in those games, that didn't exist.
I kind of, I mean, I agree. Like that big measuring contest is a fundamental part of
Of the end
like
game, yeah.
playing this game. No,
Yeah, it is. It is. Lucho
Oh,
is down.
Lucho disconnected for a second there.
Lucho is down.
I repeat, Lucho is down. All right. So we're back because we had some technical difficulties. Or
yeah,
We didn't have technical difficulties. Discord had technical difficulties. We were good.
yeah, but we use Discord too.
Yeah, but it's Discord's fault, not ours.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, still.
So yeah, where we left off was that we were talking that the end game has this factor that is about prestige, right?
Yeah, and
Big
I
measuring
was-
component.
Yes.
Yeah, and I was saying that that component is not tied to power progression at all,
There we go. So
or it doesn't have to, at least.
well, in some cases is, in some other cases is not, right?
Yeah, sure. No. I'm not saying. I'm just saying it doesn't have to, or in my opinion, it doesn't have to be tied to power progression.
It doesn't have to.
It doesn't have to, but it generally is. Because generally, anything that has to do with prestige is based around me doing something better than the others, or factually is very tied to power.
It doesn't have to be better. It could be just something that you obtain with time, like sinking time into an activity, and you'll get it.
I'm not sure I agree completely with that, because it's not a so. So if you look at something like Diablo 3's leaderboards, right? You sink a lot of time on those leaderboards, but it's not just because of the time you took to master them, but it's because of the speed with which you run them, right?
Yeah, I agree. I
okay.
agree. I'm just saying that not all the avenues to obtain the bragging rights have to be tied up to power progression.
Inside an engine, yeah.
Okay, capable of which one wouldn't? Because I don't see any right now. Just a genuine question.
I don't know. Like in WoW, you can obtain titles that are tied to collecting stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and you can display your title in your name. And
Those are the same that you get in Destiny, but
yeah, but a lot of
usually-
but the point is that a lot of them are not tied to power, because you can collect stuff outside of power. Like you can go and click things and do weird stuff. Like it's not all of them are just pure power, killing things with big numbers.
Yeah, but usually, so in Destiny, all titles are somehow related to skill.
Yeah, that's
And that
Destiny.
usually, and that's usually very tied to power. So I don't know how.
And that's a Destiny approach.
Yes, that's the Destiny approach. It's not
And
the same in every game that has endgame.
Yeah,
No, that's why I was asking how does it work, because in Destiny, and then let's say stuff such as Call of Duty or Battlefield, the titles or the achievements that you get are very based around your skill,
Yes.
and that usually is somehow tied to power level. I don't know how that works in World of Warcraft, so I cannot tell whether it's something like that or it's something different.
In World of Warcraft, you have achievements for everything.
Quite
you wanna
literally
go and
everything.
explore. Yeah, like you wanna catch I don't know, 100,000 fish, you have an achievement, and you will probably get a title and a little toy for that. That's and that's the only way to get it. Like, things like that.
Yeah, that's
Okay, and
Or you have in WoW you have professions, and those also were titles, like, or achievements for doing those. Like, you cooked this many amount of recipes, or you obtained this level of proficiency in your profession, or something like that.
mhm.
And or you can just collect appearances in World of Warcraft, and like just collecting those also award you with achievements, and people chase those because collecting.
Yeah, no, I get it. Yeah. The completionist in people just wants to have everything.
yes.
But I guess the question would change somewhat from how does that wish someone that is really good at World of Warcraft versus someone that just sink a lot of time into it.
It's different
There-
avenues.
Is it-
There are different avenues because people who are mechanically good at World of Warcraft, they end up chasing like pushing high level content, but not necessarily chasing the other parts of the end game of that game. Right? They end up like pushing like killing bosses very difficult with a bunch of extra stats, or like trying to run raids in a very high difficult in a very high difficulty, and that's what people skill, quote unquote, a World of Warcraft does for his end game. But there's a bunch of people who simply they like just collect, and that is part of the end game too. Just I would like to collect mounts. I would
That's
like to
yeah,
collect.
and the point is that's end game for that person. Like,
Yeah,
those players logging into a game to that, and they enjoy doing it. And the game has so much content that they will probably like the game has so much content, and it releases so much content at the same time, that they will always have something to pursue on those avenues.
Okay, so I guess there are from what we're discussing, there might be different types of endgames. There
Yes,
isn't just one.
there, and I agree with that statement.
yes,
But that's a dangerous avenue to go through, because World of Warcraft has either an advantage or a disadvantage, and is that it has a lot of variety for the players.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You can do basically whatever you want. If you want to engage with the hardest content in the current expansion, you can. If you really don't want to, you don't have to. If you want to do PvP, you want. If you don't want to do PvP, you don't have to. And
Yeah.
if your thing is, for example, just playing with the auction house,
You can be an accountant in World of Warcraft.
no, there are just players who like literally never leave the main cities, and all they do is trade the stuff in the auction house, and that end game is never gonna run out. Like,
Yeah, but that's not exclusive to World of Warcraft. If
no.
you think
No,
about
no.
it.
He's giving
I'm not saying
examples
it's
of
exclusive. What is exclusive is that it has all these avenues in the same game, and that's something that is hard to find in most games. Like, that it has such a big spectrum of
All right.
things for people to.
I think we should somehow try to answer the big question. What can we define as an end game activity, or as an end game thing, or how in like basic terms can we put at the end game title to something?
Yeah, because the thing that I would like to put on is something, and this can be anything, that gives you a reason for you to log into a game and do whatever you want to do.
Is that can we?
But I guess we should. No, I think we should limit that a little bit.
Yeah,
because
we should like have
anything
like
that-
a definition to look at.
yeah, because
anything that gives you a reason to log in, it's basically anything in a game.
Yeah.
So
You
everything,
can say that about a lot of
that's
games.
not the point.
No,
Yeah.
because at some point, you sit up in front of game and you say, "Not today," and you move on.
But you can say that
Yeah,
with
but
games
we
that
could
has
limit that
endgame.
to
Yeah, but like,
yeah, I guess you could limit that to not to anything that wants to make you log in, but anything that wants to keep you coming back to repeat the same stuff. Because if you have let's say you have a game such as No Man's Sky.
Yep.
No Man's Sky is a huge game. You have literally infinite number of planets.
Yeah.
So you could keep logging in every single day, and you would never probably see the same content, right? You will always see different planets. But that game has no real end game.
Yeah. Can we
as real-
define that as an
definitely.
endgame? Yeah.
No,
I mean,
because
but why not?
there's nothing to chase besides seeing something.
But that's a thing that people do want to chase. So why would you strip them? Why would you tell them that's not a valid end game if the thing that I do enjoy is just sightseeing in the game?
Because that's not something that's my opinion. That's not something that requires any skill. It just requires time. So in this case, going by your definition, anything that takes time would be endgame,
Yeah, and
right? So
I don't disagree with that.
No. So we could say that logging into RuneScape and just spending 10 hours a day, 12 hours a day, just cutting wood would be
Yeah.
considered an endgame. Because I like
Will
it.
that will you name that an endgame?
I would. I mean,
That's the
I
difficulty
wouldn't.
of defining an endgame.
Yeah, that's exactly. But for
Yeah.
me, the limiting factor is not skill, is the assigned intention of the activity.
Yeah, I think an endgame has to have a point, right?
Yeah. Yeah, there's got to be. So the way
Yeah,
we would describe an
but that-
endgame would be aspirational.
Yeah.
So I aspire to do something or to have something or to be someone.
Or to go somewhere, or to like
Yeah, so
I
acquire.
agree with that.
there's a greater objective than just logging in to do something.
I agree
There's
with that.
something to look forward to.
I agree with that. But that thing, in my opinion, shouldn't be tied to skill.
No. I
Not
mean,
necessarily,
there's
yeah.
so
Yeah,
you-
but that's-
so take it.
But you
Taking
said
your
that
example.
just a second ago. So I'm saying, for my definition, I don't want skill to be a factor in that.
In endgame. All right, yeah. Let's make that clear. It's not a skill. He was making putting up front an example of what
Yeah.
an endgame is, that it requires certain skill and certain stuff. But not every endgame needs like a
Okay,
high amount
yeah.
of skill. I think it needs more like knowledge of the game.
Yeah, I
It
agree.
It needs experience, and it needs you to understand the game in some way.
Yeah.
So
you need
going back to your example, Lucho, the title for farming 300 fish in World of Warcraft, that doesn't require skill, but it requires you knowing the game, and it requires you intentionally doing that because you're looking forward to the title. Because it might not be the title itself what you want. It might be that you're just a completionist and you want every single title,
Yeah.
right? But the point is that there is a component of you wanting something.
Yeah. Something
Yeah.
inspirational. Yeah.
No. I agree. It has to. It must have a goal.
It needs to have a point. Yeah, it needs to have a
So
point.
we
because,
we can put it like this. Like, it is a it is an activity that goes beyond of
it has to be
simple.
repeatable. It has to be repeatable.
Yeah. Let me finish. It is an activity that goes beyond of simply experiencing the game. Right? It has some kind of objective, aspirational objective in mind, in place to chase after you experience the game, right? Because that's the structure of the
Yeah.
majority of the games. It's like they tell you the story, the setup, blah blah blah, and then you finish the story, or you finish to a certain point, and then technically when you get there, you already experience the game, and you can like close the game and go home, right? Like any single player game, right? That's the difference between a normal game and a game with end game, right? You just take the experience, and then they give you aspirational objectives beyond experiencing the game. That's what we can define as an end game.
Okay,
I
but
would add that it needs to have a kind of a bragging rights component. It doesn't have to be something inside the game. So I'm thinking the true end game, so to speak, of EVE Online. EVE Online doesn't have titles. EVE Online doesn't have this big achievements that you can show to the world.
Yeah.
But the biggest end game there is the whole corporations thing. So you see a character in the game and they don't have a title, but you know by name that they're the head of this huge corporation. They're the head of the Imperium, or they're the head of the beast thingy that used to exist a long time of that corporation. So there has to be something that I can show to others to show that I did it or that I'm doing it.
Not necessarily. Well, yes, but like that. What happened in that case, in case of EVE Online, is like this: the systems inside the game allows the people who plays it to actually create those objectives, those aspirational objectives.
Those are player-driven things.
Yeah, but they're in the same category that I'm trying to build. Like the end game is that aspiration, that activity that you do inside a game that has an aspirational goal in mind at the end, right? And we can like feed a bunch of stuff inside that, right? We can feed like achievements, we can feed actual power progression, we can feed their
you can tie systems around that.
Yes, around that definition of endgame, right?
Yeah.
All right. So we technically find kind of like a definition of endgame.
Yeah, but the only thing that I would like to be careful with is that it has to be somehow intentional, and it cannot be like it cannot be the Diablo 2 thing that was kind of random.
It can be. The thing is like, you can do an end game with the purpose of doing an end game, like with the systems in mind, or you can just build a good baseline system inside a game that allows you to have an end game in the future, right? You don't have necessarily to plan up exactly what your end game is going to be.
I agree, but either one of those two things that you're describing, they have assigned like they were intentionally assigned to things to. It's just that the Diablo 2 thing just feels like it just happened. Like like the people who made the game never expected you to do that.
They actually did. If you watch the interviews with David Brevik, who was one of the lead designers of Diablo and Diablo 2, he said that they intended for the player to keep coming back, to keep getting items, to keep getting better stats, and to keep upgrading their items until there was nothing else to do.
You have to be careful with all the David Brevik interviews.
Why?
He's a crazy person.
No, he's not crazy, but he has really strong opinions about a lot of stuff. So smart guy, he's a brilliant game designer.
Well.
But
take it with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
One question: Wouldn't that definition limit what we just talked about EVE?
No, because the systems exist.
Because I don't know that CCP. Yeah, but the designers at CCP didn't intend for those end game activities to happen.
It doesn't matter because the systems are so well designed that they allow the creation of those objectives, those aspirational objectives inside the actual environment of the game. Right?
But is it a thing about good system design?
Yes, it's quite
Because,
literally a thing about like if you do a very good mechanic inside a game or a very good loophole system that has high replayability, you're probably gonna end up with an unintentional end game if that was not intentional. It is better when you are building a game and you realize that those systems are gonna work for a long time to put on more things on top of that, right? To actually create a clear and concise end game with clear stuff to do. But there's always gonna be a side of the player base that are gonna find another avenues of like objectives. They're gonna create his own niche end game. So for example, for example, in World of Warcraft, there was a niche end game where people do mounts off, right? So they just go every month and they put on like a bunch of gold in a bank and they charge you an entrance, and then you sit down and there's a host that goes cycle through mounts of World of Warcraft randomly. And if you don't have that mount, then you are out till there is one player, right? And that's an endgame activity built from the community, for example.
So the whole thing that we said a little while ago about design intention doesn't actually apply, because that's not something that Blizzard intended to happen.
Yeah, I didn't say that it has design intention. I say that is that it can create those aspirational goals, right? That those aspirational goals exist. Yes, you can do it with an intention, but you can stop from people from finding weird ways to play your game. That's my point.
Yeah, no. But the point is that then under that, if we take definition into account, as I am asking for, that kind of thing is not part of the end game.
Yeah, that wouldn't be endgame because it wasn't designed with that intention in mind, based on Lucho's definition.
Yeah, and the mount system was not designed for that. The mount system was designed only for take you from point A to point B.
Yes,
that's the intention that is behind the design of mount.
Yeah, I guess in this particular example, the true end game would be the collection. It wouldn't be that specific mount off.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Mount off. It would be just collecting.
And collecting.
Yes.
It is
whatever generated.
What did you say?
We all wanted to say something at the same time.
No. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Julian.
Okay. So the thing is that's why I said we need to define several different types of endgame. It couldn't be just one definition, because one part of the endgame, as we know it right now, is something that was specifically designed with that in mind. So the most basic and the simplest one is raids. Raids in every game are endgame activities, and they're designed as endgame activities.
All right. Yeah.
Good examples would be the World of Warcraft raids, the Destiny raids, even the Division 2 raids.
Yeah.
Those are activities that are not designed for everyone to do. Right? They have a really high bar of entry, right?
Yeah.
And they provide very specific rewards, right? And they're not meant to be completed by a huge percentage of the population.
That's not important
the game
for me.
But that's the whole thing. That's one type of endgame.
That is one type, but that's not.
Yeah.
Like none of those elements is important in my head to have an endgame, because you could have just an achievement system, and that is an endgame.
Yeah. So that's what I'm trying to say. There are different types of endgame, and they.
We need to put everything under one umbrella, because we cannot.
We have to go to a general definition where they can fit. Right.
But that's the point. That's the point I'm trying to make. The types of endgame are not exactly defined by the designer. They're more defined by the player.
No. I disagree. Like if you put
point of view.
If you put an achievement system in your game,
the intention is clear. Yeah,
the intention is clear. It's for people to pursue achievements. It's not just
But
because
is it-
it's a fun thing to no. It's
Yeah.
if
No,
the designer
actually,
doesn't care, then why did you put it? Like
because you have to.
you don't have to put achievements.
Yeah, if you check the requirements that you have for publishing on any console,
And who cares about console?
Wow.
Switch.
That is
No,
true.
that's the point. No, that's the point, because this
I
is
put-
bigger than just PC. This is bigger than just PC. This is about the entire the industry as a whole. And if you
I put one
if you check
achievement. You log in into a game. Good job.
Yeah,
There's your
there's
achievement.
games that have those achievements.
Yeah,
There's
it's-
games that have those
that's-
achievements.
yeah. No, that's not the point. The point is that if you check the requirements for publishing games to a Switch or to an Xbox One or to a PS4 or to any kind of console, and Steam used to have those a while ago, you were required to put achievements.
Yeah, but
So
but
it
you
didn't
can
end up being endgame because it didn't end up being something that the designers created for you to pursue.
Yeah,
they
but
created it just because they were meant to. They had to.
but you can find a fairly stupid workaround around those.
Yeah,
With
you could
5
you could just-
achievements. You log in once, you log in twice, you log in 3 times. After
Done.
5 days, you're done with all the achievements.
That's the other problem. That's the
That's not a-
economical, so to
that's-
speak, problem.
That's not a
Because,
problem. That's if you don't care about achievements and you're required to put them, that's what you do.
No, that's not my point. My point is that that's what I call the economical problem, so to speak. Those things are by Microsoft, Nintendo, and Sony, and Steam,
Yeah.
and Valve some time ago. You couldn't just put any achievement, because those achievements have points, and those points are bragging rights that you have against the rest of the community that you are in. There are Xbox, so to speak, endgame, the people that have these really huge gamer scores. That same thing happens in PlayStation. The people that have this huge amount of collected trophies, right?
That's why they are
if you
not real
publish the
gamers.
game, so no, but that's the whole thing. That's if we start taking out stuff that we don't consider valid in game, we're purposely limiting the definition of endgame that we shouldn't be doing.
Yeah, but that's
So
that's
because-
what I'm saying. Putting achievements is a valid form of endgame.
I wouldn't consider that.
Why
I wouldn't
not?
consider that because some achievements are most achievements nowadays are really easy.
I disagree.
There's an achievement in Destiny for completing a nightfall, and you complete a nightfall in the first 45 minutes of playing.
But that's a milestone, and that's an achievement telling you engage with one of the core systems of the game.
But then again, then we go back to the definition of endgame.
Yeah, that's
Is every
that's
core
one.
system in
Like,
the
no,
game
but if that was no, but this is the point. If that was the only achievement, yeah, that would be a problem.
Yeah.
But it is not. It's just one achievement in the whole collection of achievements of the game.
I guess then I guess the achievement system by itself is not endgame. Collecting all of the achievements in a game would be endgame.
That's what we meant.
That's what he meant. Like, an example of endgame is like achievements as a collection of all the achievements.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I understood just having the achievements and just getting one.
No,
achievement
Will be
endgame.
defined
That's
as
what I
endgame,
understood. Then,
it is, but
that was my bad. That was my bad.
But it is not like community-driven things.
It's clear.
It was put by the designer there. Like it is in the game, and it gives you a little message in red letters that says "achievement complete."
Yeah, that's
It's not player driven.
And his point is like it doesn't have to be necessarily. You don't necessarily have to build achievements as an endgame because you can do very basic achievements and stop giving you achievements. Right?
Yeah,
But you can build achievements for endgame like the emblems in Destiny. Those are a form of endgame achievements. The badges, right? That you get.
Yeah,
That's
because they
an
require it.
example of an achievement system built for an endgame. All right.
Yeah.
Yes. All right.
Yeah. So the thing is that that why I feel we need different definitions is because every time we try to define it, we exclude something that someone would consider endgame.
Yeah, and we have to draw the line somewhere.
Yes.
Such is life.
Yes, we have to draw the line somewhere. We
Life
have
is
to
hard.
start to
Yeah,
plant
yeah.
flags.
No, yeah. And that's the point of what we're doing. But the thing is that we've mentioned stuff that we have said this is endgame. Then
Yeah.
5 minutes later, we have said this is not endgame based on our definition.
Yeah,
Perfect
that's
example would be the whole auction house thing in WoW. By our current definition, the auction house in WoW wouldn't be endgame. By the definition we just gave, like
why
2
not?
minutes ago,
The
that's
auction
not-
house is there, like, is not pleasure driven trade. It's
Yeah, it was built because the argument of Lucho was that player driven aspirational objectives should not be considered endgame because they didn't have an intention, a design intention, right? To be
But then again-
a long-lasting activity with an aspirational objective, right? That's what
Then
that was Lucho's argument, right? The auction house is clearly an activity with aspirational objective, which is make a bunch of gold. That was put with that intention in mind in the game.
So nothing that is player driven would be end game, and in that case, the auction house wouldn't be end game.
I just
Because
tell
the
you that
auction house is
yes.
just a system for-
But the auction house is not like the system was put by the designers there.
Yeah, but it wasn't meant to be something that you aspire to.
Of course
just
it
meant-
was. It is.
Of course it was. It's called an auction house.
Yes.
The name on itself evokes
The
the
thing-
fact that you want to make gold out of that. You know what I'm
Yes.
saying?
Yeah, but it's the same thing that we discussed around the mount system a while ago.
No, because the mount system was
was-
no. Because the mount thing that LNG described was like an activity that was designed by players.
Yeah, and I was wrong. That is not considered. The collection amounts is
See?
considered in game, but not the activity built
The
by
activity
players.
itself
Yeah.
is not an end game.
Yes. Yes.
Collecting the mounts, yes, that one
Yes.
is.
So in this case, it wouldn't be the auction house. It would be collecting gold would be considered the end game.
Sure.
How do I collect that gold? Doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is that I collect as much gold as I can.
If you
And
want to
then
put it
again,
that
the
way,
auction house wouldn't be
Sure.
that end game. So that's the point, and that's what I'm trying to say. So our current is fighting against itself, because if we look at it from, it has to be design driven, it can't be player generated, right? If it has to be design driven, there's a lot of stuff that wouldn't qualify as end game that a lot of people would say, yes, this is end game.
yeah,
Perfect
I'm okay with
example.
that.
Perfect example. Everything about EVE Online. EVE Online wasn't designed for you to have corporations that rule half the universe and for them to have these huge galactic wars between themselves. It was just designed as a trading game. EVE was designed to model an economy. The
Yeah, but if it-
economy doesn't have an end game, by definition.
What?
So
The-
nothing about EVE
the
would
end
have
game
an
of
end game.
the end game of an economy is being as rich as possible.
Yeah, but there's nothing about creating corporations. There's nothing
It's
about
the end game of capitalism.
the end game of capitalism is having. But my point is that none of those systems were designed by CCP with the intention of having players own corporations and having these huge galactic wars the way we have in real life. It was just designed as a game where I trade with other players, stuff. It was basically a huge auction house. So where's the line that says, and that's, I guess that's my real question. Where's the line that says this is end game, this is an end game? It doesn't have to be designed. It doesn't have to be intentioned.
No,
by the
we are drawing it. Yes, we know that we're gonna have stuff that it's gonna be outside of how we define it, because we are trying to define it not we are trying to define it with a clear vision so we can discuss it, right? So yeah, technically,
Mhm.
EVE Online doesn't have an endgame in our definition because it wasn't like intentionally designed for that, right?
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
That's it, right? That's the definition that we're gonna try to discuss, right? Because we have to discuss endgame when there is an intention to create one. If
Yeah.
that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to step in and say, all right, we the only way that we can see if an endgame works, doesn't work, or it is doing his purpose or not is standing or put it on definition inside a clear intention from the designer, right? If endgames are created without a clear intention of the designer, it's not an endgame inside our definition. It's a community activity. If you want to give it a name, right?
And there is just like the whole there is a huge problem of calling something endgame or not, because this word on itself, endgame, has a lot of baggage attached to it.
Yeah.
And if it has its own prestige attached. If just means something as not being endgame is seen as a bad thing, but that's not the
Yeah.
case. It's just a word.
Yeah. So we try, like, to be technically accurate, we're trying to define endgame as the Sweaty the Farmer and the Game Design Podcast. Since the endgame, basically. Right?
Yeah, it's something that was designed with the intention of keeping players doing something, anything, playing the game, putting hours into the thing.
It was, like, to be technical, it was designed with the intention of having an aspirational goal inside the game.
Yeah.
There we go. That's how we can define it and talk about it. All right?
Do we
Okay.
agree? I agree with that definition.
There we go.
I don't know, what do you guys think?
Do you
And yeah, I
concur?
know that we're
Do you concur,
we're
Julian?
I don't agree for the sole reason that everything that would fall outside of the design intention of the designers of game studio, doesn't matter how good or bad it is, wouldn't be considered.
but there is nothing wrong
So
with that.
you're no. So you're taking all the agency away from the player.
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
my
Yes.
problem with that.
No,
Yeah.
because
The
we
player
are
doesn't have any
going to analyze it
agency
from a game design perspective.
Yeah, and one of the pillars of game design is player agency.
That's kind of overrated. Like, you can
No,
have a
because
game where you're just telling a story with as little.
Yeah, the thing is, like, player agency can be delivered in a lot of ways, not necessarily through an endgame.
No. I'm not saying that endgame needs to have player agency. I'm saying that by your definition, if it wasn't intended by the designers, it's not endgame,
Correct.
right?
Yeah.
So
Yes.
anything that wasn't pre-planned cannot be considered an endgame, no matter what.
Correct.
That's my point about taking agency away from the player. So
Yeah.
another
Yes.
huge example is, and this is something that is really big in the industry, is Minecraft doesn't have an endgame.
Yeah, it doesn't.
Yes, it does not.
Okay, cool.
I've
So
never thought
if you-
Minecraft had one. It's like
Yeah.
saying that playing with Legos has an endgame. No, it doesn't. You just
So
build
how would
stuff
you
and then you
describe-
destroy
The
it.
fun.
And you keep building.
Okay, so how would you describe the guy that created an entire Nintendo 64 inside that worked?
I would call it a really smart guy.
Yes.
What would you call the guy who built like a Statue of Liberty with Legos?
It's different because
It's the
the
same
Nintendo
thing.
64 inside Minecraft worked.
Is
And
is
you
the
could play a
Okay.
game inside Minecraft.
okay?
All right, that is not an endgame, clearly.
Okay.
That
If
is
you
someone
guys want to go by that definition,
that is someone
okay.
doing something inside a game that is using the systems exist inside the game and doing something really
Okay.
weird.
Do the
Okay.
Sims have an endgame? No,
No.
it's just a sandbox Lego game. Like they give you blocks of things and you go have fun.
That is fine.
It's
There
like
is
a-
no clear
it's
aspirational
like a
goal
s-
giving you intentionally.
Yeah, it's like a city simulator. Like the whole point of the game is to manage your city, and that's it.
Yeah, a city simulator does not have an end game. Okay.
That
Okay.
doesn't mean that
If you-
people don't do cool things on those
Yeah.
games. They do amazing stuff, and you see, like there is one YouTuber who actually receives cities from what's the name of the game? Uh, uh,
CMC?
not SimCity, the other one, cities Skylines that
Oh,
have
shit. Okay.
like
Yeah.
traffic problems, and also YouTube videos are like fixing the roads, and that's fun to watch, and it's amazing to see what the guy does. Like the guy knows the systems of the game, he knows what he's doing. It's fun. Is it like an end game? No, it's just someone building cool shit.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that.
And there is
Okay,
cases where yeah.
So by that definition, nothing in the speedrunning community would be considered an end.
No.
Okay, cool. If you guys want to, I mean, I don't agree, but if you guys want a definition, that's okay by me, and I can work with that. There's no problem there.
Yeah, this the speedrunning thing is, yeah, I mean, it's a skill-based cool thing that people do, but
Yeah. Yeah, it's not technically considered an end game. There was an example that I was gonna give you guys. Anyways, so with that definition in mind, what is acceptable as an end game?
We just discussed that.
What will you consider?
no,
No.
there is some. It's PvP an acceptable form of endgame.
Why wouldn't it be?
No,
If I design an activity that is meant to be difficult and that has important aspirational rewards, then it would qualify as an endgame. If I just design PvP as a way for players to compete against each other without an objective in mind, then it wouldn't be endgame. That's our definition.
Yes, that is correct.
So, but then in that case, any kind of PvP environment with a
With a goal.
With a clear aspirational goal.
No, like with a ladder, for example, that would be endgame because the objective is to climb up the ladder.
Yeah, technically yes.
Yeah, because the aspiration is for me to be first.
Yeah.
Okay.
For me to be higher.
I aspire to be first and to stay always as first.
Yes.
No. Okay. That's it's a valid question in the sense that there are a lot of games who try to balance or walk the line between being PvP and PvE and balancing things between both. And the communities are split among the ones who do prefer PvP and PvE, and just wondering.
So by our definition, that doesn't matter.
No.
What matters is the objective.
I agree.
Yes.
I'm just putting it out there. Like it's PvP also, like PvP has a place in this definition. And that's important.
I would argue that PvP would be a more valid, so to speak, form of endgame than.
That's an opinion.
No. So yeah, I would argue because by our definition, the aspiration in PvP is by definition more difficult than any aspiration you could have in PvE. Because in PvE you have a set of rules. So you have a set of rules. You have a set of activities that only go up so far in terms of difficulty, right?
Yeah.
And after that point, everyone has reached that endgame. And so taking into account the let's say a game that doesn't have PvP, but would have sort of a PvP, and by our definition would be Diablo 3, because the ladder for the greater, it's something that you do by yourself. You're not competing physically against anyone, but it's player versus player because I'm fighting to have better times than you. That would be considered a form of player versus player. It would be considered asynchronous player versus, because I do my thing as best as I can, and then you do your thing as best as you can,
Sure.
and we compete to see who's.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's perfectly fine.
Okay.
Yeah, that works. That works.
So that's my point behind the whole anything that is PvP, player versus player focus. Let's not say PvP, because PvP is something that everyone assumes is me versus you in real time,
Yeah.
right? So anything that is player versus player is by definition better, quote unquote, end game than anything that is player versus environment.
I disagree with that statement.
Yeah, it's not
Why?
necessarily better, because we haven't talked about what is a good, what can be considered as a good endgame, right?
And there is also there is no better or worse.
Yeah, I think at
Because
this point,
if I don't enjoy PvP,
then that endgame is bad for me. It's like
that
the worst
endgame is
endgames
bad for me.
But if I love PvE, then the endgame of getting to the raids is the best for me, right? You cannot say
But this
that
is
There is
this
no
is
there is
precisely-
not objective way to say what's better or worse.
Yeah, but then we came back to what I was saying 10 minutes. You changed the definition from something that was designed by the game
No.
studio
no, we haven't changed
to
the
what
definition.
No.
No. Let me try to finish. If you say, if I don't enjoy PvP, then this isn't good endgame for me. This is an end for me. That is entirely player agency. That is entirely my opinion. Is that because I don't like, then this is an endgame for me.
Yeah.
That goes directly against what we just said, because what we just said doesn't take into account player.
No,
It has to be endgame because the designers meant it that way. The fact that you don't like it because you don't like PvP or because you don't like PvE shouldn't be taken into account.
yeah, but
based on our definition.
No. But it doesn't take away the fact that it is endgame. It just means that it's not an endgame for me. Like, not for me, my definition, but it's just not a good endgame for me. But it's a still endgame.
Yeah, as a player, not as the definition.
As a general thing, it's endgame.
Yeah.
That is not good for this specific player. That doesn't take it away the fact that it's endgame. Like I don't enjoy PvP in Destiny. I don't engage with PvP in Destiny. That doesn't take away that it has an endgame and that it is endgame. And I see the people who are really good at PvP and have the things and the armor and the stuff, and I still say, "Oh, that's really cool. They have something that I don't."
Yes.
And that's it. That doesn't mean that I have to engage with the system, but the system is there. It was designed for that.
Okay.
Okay, there we go.
But there is no better or worse, like objectively for everyone. There is, like, I do have my subjective opinion for each game.
Yes.
Okay, so then we can't answer the question that a few minutes ago.
What is
Acceptable?
acceptable as an endgame? Is an absolutely subjective question.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we cannot answer that.
We
can't
can
give
from our own
based on-
opinions.
No, because when you say what is acceptable, you have to say what is acceptable for you,
That's
not
not
what
true.
is generally acceptable as endgame.
I just gave you the perfect example. Do I enjoy endgame in PvP in Destiny? No. Is it acceptable endgame? Yes, it is. I'm gonna engage with the system? No. But that doesn't take away from the fact that it's a perfectly acceptable endgame.
Acceptable or valid?
Valid. Even
Okay,
good endgame.
That's. I feel like this is contrarian, but okay, let's just move
Why?
on. Let's just
Why is it contrarian? I don't see the contradiction.
because the value that so you're trying to say that you don't find value in it, but you know it's there
Of course,
for
because
some
they're
things.
all.
No,
Because
hold on. Let me finish. So you said, I understand that PvP in Destiny, right, doesn't hold value to me, but it is acceptable endgame, valid endgame.
yes,
But you also have other stuff such as the EVE Online stuff, which was player generated, that you see the value, but it's not acceptable. And that's my
Yes.
It's
that's
because that's
the point
not
that I've been trying to say.
endgame.
Yes.
See?
Your
because
definition is
the
not endgame.
because the PvP arenas in Destiny were they
Were
were designed by were clearly assigned by someone to engage people and put them. Yeah, I'm gonna throw players in here to PvP. While the thing in EVE Online is just take this sandbox and do.
Do a thing, and that's it, right? It doesn't have a clear design intention.
Well, the PvP in Destiny does have one. Like you have arenas, you have a ladder, you have a competitive point elo system.
You have achievements
You
on
don't have a
PvP,
ladder. No, you don't have a ladder.
Yeah, but you have like a point
a
system thing.
rank system, yeah.
Yeah, but the rank system is for you alone.
Yes,
No one
but
ever
it
sees
does.
that.
but
No one ever sees that.
But
it exists.
Yeah, it exists, and
and if you see,
But
no,
there is no bragging rights behind it because
of
no
course,
one ever sees.
no. That's not true. Like just the fact that, for example, you reach in the competitive list the thing to a little submachine gun. Those are bragging rights. I don't have it.
All right.
And I see the people who have it, and I say, oh, it's really cool. They grind it up. They're good PvP players.
Yeah.
Am I going to engage with it? No, but I still look at their gun and see, that's really cool. Yeah.
There you go.
It's just the fact that I don't engage with the system doesn't diminishes the achievements that they get.
No, that's not what I was saying. But okay.
But the whole PvP arena was designed and was intentionally put in the game. It was more than a sandbox, just saying, take your Lego pieces and do stuff. Build a SNS in your Destiny sandbox. It's more than that. It has a little bit more.
Yeah. All right. Whew. All right. This is a difficult discussion.
It is.
To have, but I think we arrive at a consensus of what an endgame is under our definition, so we can discuss it in his value in the game that has it, right?
Yes.
So it's a clearly designed activity with an aspirational goal and all that, everything that implies, right? Bragging rights, power, etc., right? That's our definition of endgame.
Yep.
Yes. Cool. Nice. All right. That's a consensus. We did it.
Kind of.
we make it. Yay! So we made a point. Yeah.
I would like to make something clear. Like, I would like to have a definition that includes speed running, because that's an aspirational goal that I see. Like,
Yes.
But it's just I have to
There's
draw
no way
the
to
line
include it.
somewhere.
Yeah, you have to like put somewhere the line, because if not, it start to get blurry, and then
Yeah, and all I'm saying is that I'm also leaving things outside of this definition that I do think are really cool.
yes.
Like your speed running stuff. That's
That
amazing.
doesn't mean that the end game is the end all and be all in games. All right.
It does not. Yeah.
No. I don't think we ever applied that.
No, we don't. But I feel like it's maybe because of the type of games that I play, but it feels like nowadays every game needs to have an end game.
So why nowadays every game needs to have an end game?
And maybe I'm biased because I play for the most part like MMO like things, like with
Yeah.
account persistent and stuff like that. Those are most of the games that I play.
Yeah, but from a business perspective, it's clear why
Yeah.
now every game wants to have an end game, and it's because they want to keep player retention, they want to keep player coming back, they have a bunch of microtransactions that they require that the player have these aspirational goals, and in the way of the aspirational goals they spend money on the game and they keep engaging with the communities, etc., etc. So that's why right now end game in this day and age is so important, because it gives you those clear, super clear aspirational goals, very well designed, and that take advantage for the player, and it fits perfectly in our definition, right?
It keeps the money coming, and
Yes.
I do see why you as a company would like to have that.
Yes.
Just people playing your game so they can keep spending money.
Yes.
But
so based on that, no single player game can ever have an end.
And maybe they shouldn't.
No. That was the entire point of the whole controversy of single player games, that they should just be an experience that you just do like a movie or like a book, and they just play, experience all the game, experience the unique ways in which the game is telling you and make you feel this story that it gets enhanced by the gameplay, and then you finish the story, and then you end up with a lesson or feeling good, and that's it.
What about all those games that have New Game Plus and that require you to do more than one to get some items or to do some stuff or to see different?
Well, that allows you to see the rest of the game. You answered your own question.
So perfect example, and this is really old. This is not something new. This is a really old game. Perfect example would be Chrono Trigger, Chrono Cross, or Vagrant Story.
Yeah.
All of those three games had a New Game Plus, right?
Yes.
Of course, a lot of modern games also have new games, but those three games, if you wanted to be better at it, if you wanted to aspire to finish the game as fast as possible, or if you wanted to aspire to defeat the boss and see the one of the secret endings of the game, you had to play it more than once. And that was clearly designed that way. It was designed so that if you wanted, so perfect example, Chrono Trigger.
Yeah.
In Chrono Trigger, there's a way for you to go and fight Lavos in the first 15 minutes. Right?
Yes.
You can do that. It was designed, but you cannot do that during your first run because you're like level 2 and Lavos basically looks at you and just, right? So there was design intention in that. There was a clear focus on the player doing that to see one of the endings, the secret ending, so to speak. So it was aspirational. And that's not included in our definition.
And I would say that is not endgame, because if you have quote unquote, or if you have like a secret ending, then you have not seen all the game. So there is no place to have something beyond the game.
Yeah.
Like, for example, the Nier Automata game, you have to play it multiple ways with different characters just to see the entire story.
Yeah, just experience the entire game.
But it is still like if you only play it through once, you only saw one little part of the story. You haven't seen the whole thing.
Okay, so I guess what we would have to add to the definition that you have to have finished the game in order to see the end game.
Yeah, I mean, it's
you have
kind
to
of
have consumed all of the content in the game in order to see it.
Yeah, that's what the thing that I say at the beginning.
Mentioned that at the beginning.
Yeah, at the beginning, that you just have to experience the game, and then after that, play the story, play the whole gameplay road normal, and then after that is where the end game appears, when all the experiential goals appears and that sort of stuff.
But you need to experience the whole for that to matter.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you have to experience all of the content that the game has before starting with the end game.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So we need to add that to the definition.
It was at the beginning.
I don't feel that was included there.
I mentioned it at the beginning when we were building it.
Yeah, it was mentioned at the beginning. I concur with that.
Okay.
All right. So to close this discussion for today for definition of end game, put it into a paragraph. Is an aspirational activity with clear design intention that you see after you experience the game. Yes?
Yes.
I'm not missing anything. Cool. Now, all right.
No, I don't think so.
All right. That's it for our deep dive today.
That's fair.
We built a definition. Cool.
Step one.
Yes.
We have an achievement.
We have an achievement. We unlock in-game.
We have the first achievement.
Yes. Oh my God. All right. I feel like I'm gonna write it down somewhere for the next podcast.
Yeah, because like in the next episode we wanna see, like we wanna contrast things against this definition.
Yeah.
And maybe discuss why do we enjoy certain types or not of or certain games on their end game. Well, we don't enjoy other ones. Destiny 2 can go suck a big monkey.
So we're definitely gonna write it down. Yeah. Anyways, that's it for our deep dive. Now we're gonna move on to our audience questions and feedback. Remember that you can always contact us through our social media accounts, email, comments on the YouTube channel, comments on the hearing software where you get your podcast in your You can contact us in a mail.
Listening.
Yes, in our Facebook says or by snail mail. You can pass by my stream and ask questions there. That's how you get us the questions and feedback. So the first question that we have for today is the ARPG genre dead?
Yes, it is dead.
Why did you say this, Lucho?
Why?
Because it peaked, and now we have the. It was. It is like do you remember, guys, the tech ball that happened like at some point in the early 2000s? Like you had a lot of things that pop out at some point in history, and a lot of them died, and now we have like 2 tech companies in the world. It's the same thing with but like we have a couple of big ones. Like we don't have the thousands and thousands of tech companies that we had like at the beginning of the 2000s, stuff like that. The same thing
we do, but
no, we don't. No, we don't. Tell that to the Poppy webpage. What was it called?
The Poppy webpage? What?
there was a famous Super Bowl ad.
Right.
It's internet history. Doesn't matter.
Okay.
But my point is that there was a time when ARPGs were popping out all over the place. But they don't do that anymore. Like we have maybe 3 good ARPGs now.
Which ones? Which are? According to
Theory?
you? All right, yes.
Diablo?
Yes.
Maybe Torchlight, if you want to include it as an ARPG.
Torchlight is clearly
an ARPG. It is an ARPG.
And aside from that,
we the things like we were in like a big development. We are coming just now. Darksiders Origins, I think it was the last one.
We'll see if
Genesis.
Darksiders Genesis is an ARPG and it's been having like amazing reviews. We will have Wolsen, which is Diablo S.
Wilson has been in development for the longest time, and we'll see if this game survives.
Is gonna release just like I think next week, something
January
like
30th.
that.
No, January 30th. January 30th. Next.
Yeah, but
Next month.
Wilson was in development, like it's been in development for years now. Like
But
Yeah,
that
but
doesn't
they-
change the fact that it is an RPG. An
yeah,
RPG.
and
no. But the point is that they have improved their worth on the market.
that's true, but that doesn't mean that the genre is that we have coming in Lost Ark, which
Yeah.
is a very successful Korean Russian ARPG, like really successful Korean Russian ARPG, and they're bringing into the Western market because it's so good, right? We have like
Yeah, and that's
4 or
the
5
thing.
games. We have Torchlight. Torchlight is included into but we have like the new release of the Torchlight kind of online thingy that they're doing.
Okay.
Right, we
So
have
we
like
have, like-
5 games coming, 6 games coming in the RPG
What
genre.
6 game?
Wolsen.
Aside from the
Diablo
3 that I
4.
mentioned.
So Diablo
No.
4,
I
Diablo
mentioned-
2.
I mentioned 3 games.
Yeah, he
What are
mentioned
the other ones that are coming?
Wolsen, Lost
Wolsen?
Ark.
Lost Ark and Darksiders already
Darksiders,
came out, but it's
yeah.
it's new, so a lot of people don't know it. And
Epoch.
that's the other thing is that there are a ton, like 50 ARPGs on the other side of the world, in China and in Russia and
Sorry,
in
I don't-
Eastern,
I-
that a lot of
I don't
people
live in
play,
China.
and no, but that's
That's not.
yeah, but you cannot consider an a genre as dead if you don't take into account the whole world. Just because
Yes, I
you
can
don't
because
see
I
them
cannot
here-
freaking read Chinese.
No,
I cannot play the game if I cannot read it.
that's not my point.
No,
Okay,
no,
fine,
that's
Let's just go with it.
that's my
Let's just
point.
go with it. Fine.
Like, why do I care that there are millions of RTS games in Chinese? I don't play games in Chinese.
Okay, fine.
Well, you say Lucho say yes, we say no.
I say that is that.
We said like no. We have a bunch of releases coming in next year, like a bunch.
No, you have like 3 aside from the big hitters on the genre. That's not a lot.
That's a lot. How many? How many do you want?
More.
More is what? 6 releases in a year of an RPG? You want to actually kill the
Yeah.
genre by overfloating it?
It already happened.
Oh my god.
Like they already killed the genre with overdoing it before. Like,
Well, I don't think it's dead. What do you think,
I th-
Juliano?
I think it's that.
No,
I'm glad.
I think that genre is a little bit too big. Actually, there are too many ARPGs right now. I feel like that genre could be better if it would be a little bit more focused instead of having 20, 30, 40 games at the same.
We don't have that many RPGs.
Not that you can play, but there are. The fact that you can play doesn't mean it exists.
Yeah, but if they're in Chinese, that's
Doesn't matter. It still exists. You are one guy. China has like 2 billion people. They would disagree with your opinion.
yeah,
Very
but
strongly.
but that's not my experience of the genre.
Yeah, but your experience of the genre is not whether the genre is there or not. Whether you consider it as that is another thing. But the
Mhm.
genre itself is not that.
Of course it
I
is.
mean, no. So let's try to discuss it. But the stealth genre is dead.
That is dead. That is very dead.
That one really is dead. There isn't a single stealth game coming, and a single stealth game hasn't come out in like 10 years. That is dead.
Definitely dead.
There's nothing there. But there are ARPGs coming out here. There are a ton of ARPGs coming out in China. There are a ton of ARPGs coming out in Russia. That cannot be that because there's still stuff going on. The fact that it isn't the most popular game genre right now And the fact that you don't play it doesn't mean that it's that.
I
don't
do.
play it. I don't play ARPGs, but
I do play
but I still
RPGs.
consider that the. So that's the thing. I don't play them, but I do know that the genre still exists and that it's really.
If you have like 4 big names in a genre that like dominate the whole discussion, is that
So FPS would be that as well.
Yeah, I was saying that. I was going to say exactly the same thing.
Because FPS would be Call of Duty, Destiny,
Destiny is nothing.
Battlefield, and Battlefield.
Destiny is not an FPS.
Oh, and Halo, and Halo just came back because it wasn't in the discussion for almost 10 years. So
Gears of
you have
War
four-
is not a big one.
Guild for Wars
that-
is not an FPS.
Gears is not
It's
an
not
FPS.
FPS.
No.
Gears is a third-person shooter.
I've never played that game.
So you have four. You have 4 FPSs. So by your definition, FPS is also.
Yeah.
yeah, it's kind of. I mean, if it
kind of dead.
gaming is also that. Strategy gaming is also that because you
Yeah.
have Age of Empires, you have Civilization, and that's it.
no, RTS are dead. Like they're dead in their head. Like
Oh, you have Warhammer.
RTS games have been dead for
Strategy games
years
in
now.
general. Strategy games in general.
Well, like, I think the conclusion of this is like, the game industry is dead, just move on.
Yeah. Yeah, nothing to see here. Just move on. Move on. Find something else to do. Find something else to spend your time on.
I mean, you should.
There you go.
To be perfectly honest, you should.
All right, and the next question that we have is, what is your opinion on the recently announced Diablo 4 itemization changes? So in this topic,
Nothing.
nothing? You don't know? You don't think anything about the itemization
Okay.
changes?
No, because really the only way to fairly judge any kind of itemization is when the game comes out.
All right.
And again, you know that I'm super skeptical with these things. Like they can say a million things on paper, it won't matter until the game is out.
Okay. What do you
Yeah, and
think?
they did say that that wasn't the final design of the application system. So that might change.
No, even if they did say that, no, like this is the final thing. None of that will matter until the game is out.
All right. So let me ask
Yeah,
you.
we gotta-
That's what I was saying. That's what I was saying. So until you can see it, until you can play with it, until you can understand it by yourself, it's not real.
All right.
Yeah.
Fair
That's
enough.
exactly what I was saying.
Then let me ask you a smaller question. What do you think about the system that they're saying that they're gonna put in the game, quote unquote, that is disconnecting like legendary powers from the items themselves? So
Yeah.
what they're saying is that you can have an item and then you can apply a legendary power to that item.
Yeah,
But
I
there
mean,
exists a legendary that has that affix. What do you think about
It's-
that system?
it's
It sounds good, but there's no way to judge it.
anything like that's fine. It's just a different form of itemization,
All right. yeah.
which can be perfectly valid. And the thing with itemization is that it depends completely on the execution. How difficult are to obtain these legendary things or affixes or stuff?
Yeah.
How good?
How
do they-
useful? How
they
strong are
actually?
they?
Mhm.
We don't know. And this thing is something that like all the problems of itemization, you can describe the systems in words and in paper and they sound okay.
Yeah.
It's an execution 100%.
Fair enough. All right. That's interesting. So it's a thing about it is execution. That's one thing.
Itemization is 100% execution in all the games.
All right. Fair.
Like
Yeah.
you can tell me I'm gonna give you a chess piece that makes you fly and do triple jumps and blah blah blah, and it's gonna be freaking amazing. And no one can get it. Then it doesn't matter. It's all execution.
All right. So I think that's it.
That's all. That's that's all for this week's episode. It was a long one. Once
Yeah.
again, thanks for tuning in into A Sweaty Farmer and the Game Design. My name is Lucho, and you can find me on Twitter at LuisGPolanco.
And I am the Loin Gamer. You can find me on Twitter at the Loin Gamer and on Twitch on twitch.tv/LearningGamerTV, where I stream Mondays to Fridays.
And my name is Julian, and you can find me on Facebook at facebook.com/Julian Camilo Cuevas. Because I don't use social networks, don't hate me for saying Facebook because I don't.
Don't forget to share, like, and subscribe, and click the notification bell and tell your mom that you're hearing this awesome podcast. To the Sweaty, the Farmer, and the Game Design. See you next time.
Bye.
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 And did you know? In the year 1964, European explorers reached the Americas. They saw the fruit and found a striking resemblance between pine cones and this fruit. And they call it pineapple. So actually, between 1964 and 1694, the word pineapple referred to both the fruit and the pine cones. What do you know?
Did you also know that pineapples regenerate? So you can plant a pineapple leaf and that will grow a new pineapple. So basically, pineapples are immortal and they will one day, I for one, welcome a new pineapple overlords.
And once pineapples are harvested, they just won't ripen any further. This just means that if you keep the fruit for a couple of days or even a week, you cannot rip it anymore. So it is just what you buy.
So pineapples are immortal.
Yeah, pineapples are immortal.
Is this the thing? It's like the immortal fruit. So you can, like, I don't know, take it to space or something like that, and they won't die. And then can I plant pineapples on the moon?
Pineapples are better than I forgot the name of the dessert in the apple. Twinkies. Pineapples are better than Twinkies.
Anything is better than Twinkies. Twinkies are disgusting.
They were because they don't exist anymore, but yeah.
Oh my God! Did pineapples outlive Twinkies? Oh my God!
Pineapples apparently outlive anything
Anything.
because they just don't ripen anymore.